Faith turns the impossible into victory. This single truth has echoed through the centuries, lighting the path for those who refuse to give up when life seems unbearable. Faith is not only a belief in unseen power, it is a living energy that transforms weak hearts into unshakable mountains. It was this faith that carried a small group of Muslims through the desert sands of Qadisiyyah against one of the greatest empires of the world. But if you pause and look around today, you'll see that the same principle applies in our daily lives. The battle may not always be with swords and shields. Sometimes it's with fear, hardship, and uncertainty. Yet the heart that holds faith stands undefeated. Imagine a man facing financial collapse. Everything he worked for begins to crumble. People laugh, doors close, and the world whispers that it's over. But if that man kneels down in the silence of the night and whispers, "Why, Allah, I still believe," something powerful happens. The situation may not change instantly, but his soul does. His fear turns into calm, his despair into direction. That faith becomes the sword that cuts through hopelessness, the shield that guards him from doubt. Slowly, new paths open, unseen opportunities appear, and he rises stronger than before. Faith is not about avoiding storms. It's about walking through them with your head held high, trusting that Allah will clear the skies when the time is right. The soldiers at Qadisiyyah were ordinary men. They had no wealth, no fancy weapons, no guarantee of survival. Yet they stood before an empire because they believed that Allah was with them. They didn't fight with arrogance. They fought with conviction. Each step they took was a statement of trust. Our strength is not in our swords. It is in our submission. And that is what faith truly means, surrendering the illusion of control and finding power and dependence on the Almighty. When a person realizes that everything in life, success, loss, health, struggle, happens by the will of Allah, their heart becomes calm. They stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Guide me." That's when miracles begin. Faith teaches us patience in times when everything around us screams, "Give up." It gives the mother strength to raise her children with hope even when life is difficult. It gives the student courage to study through failure, believing that Allah rewards effort, not just results. It gives the sick person comfort to smile through pain, knowing that every hardship is a test, not a punishment. In every human heart lies a battlefield like Qadisiyyah, a fight between fear and faith. And every time you choose to trust Allah instead of panicking, you win that battle. We often think victory means achieving something grand, a promotion, success, or recognition. But sometimes victory is simply holding on when everything tells you to let go. It's waking up after 1,000 disappointments and saying, "Alhamdulillah, I will try again." Faith transforms ordinary people into extraordinary souls because it connects them with the infinite. The Persian army relied on numbers, strategy, and wealth, but the Muslims relied on the one who controls the outcome of every battle. That is why they won. Not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most steadfast. Faith is like a seed planted deep within the heart. You water it with prayer, you protect it with patience, and you feed it with remembrance. It may grow slowly, but when it blooms, it changes everything. You begin to see purpose in pain, beauty in waiting, and peace in surrender. When you have faith, you stop chasing what is temporary and start living for what is eternal. You stop counting your failures and start trusting Allah's timing. You realize that even the delays and detours are part of your journey towards something better. Think of the story of any great achievement. Behind every success is someone who refused to give up because they believe. The entrepreneur who fails 10 times but starts again. The student who studies night after night despite doubt. The person who forgives when they could easily hate. All these are acts of faith. There are small battles of Qadisiyyah being fought in modern hearts. You don't have to stand on a battlefield to prove your faith. Sometimes simply refusing to let hopelessness win is your greatest jihad. The soldiers at Qadisiyyah didn't know they were making history. They were just obeying, believing, and moving forward. That's what faith looks like, walking even when you can't see the road, trusting that Allah will guide your steps. In life, you will face your own Qadisiyyah. situations that seem impossible, people who underestimate you, moments when fear will whisper that you can't go on. But remember, victory doesn't come from strength, it comes from steadfastness. The heart that believes never truly loses. So hold your faith close, guard it like a sword, sharpen it with remembrance. Because one day, when your own battles come, it will be that same faith, quiet but powerful, that will lift you up when the world turns away. Just as the believers at Qadisiyyah turned the impossible into victory, you too can turn your trials into triumphs, not by might, but by trusting the Almighty. When you believe that Allah is enough, truly enough, then no mountain is too high, no enemy too strong, and no dream too distant. Faith doesn't just change your story, it changes who you are within it. And that, my brothers and sisters, is the greatest victory of all. Arrogance destroys even the greatest powers. This truth is written in the dust of fallen empires and in the silence of proud hearts that refuse to bow. It was arrogance that blinded kings, shattered nations, and turned mighty warriors into forgotten names. The Persian commander Rostam stood with his golden armor and vast army, believing that the Muslims were nothing more than desert wanderers. His heart was filled with pride, and he saw himself as untouchable. But arrogance blinds a person to reality. It makes the strong foolish and the wise reckless. The story of the Battle of Qadisiyyah teaches that no matter how high a person stands, if pride fills their chest, their fall is only a matter of time. Arrogance begins quietly. It doesn't always roar like a lion. Sometimes it whispers in the heart, "You are better, you deserve more, you cannot be wrong." It is that silent poison that turns gratitude into greed, humility into ego. In daily life, you can see arrogance everywhere. A person who looks down on others because of wealth, education, or beauty. Someone who refuses to admit mistakes because their pride won't allow it. Or a leader who ignores advice because they think they know everything. The tragedy of arrogance is that it disconnects you from people and from Allah. It builds a wall so high that even truth cannot climb it. Rostam believed his empire could never fall. He looked at his armies, his elephants, his shining armor, and laughed at the believers. He thought victory was guaranteed by numbers, not by righteousness. But arrogance blinds the heart to the simplest truth. Strength is nothing without sincerity. When the battle began, his confidence turned to confusion. The very empire that ruled with fear began to tremble because arrogance weakens the soul from within. The proud may stand tall, but their roots are shallow. When the storm comes, they fall first. In our own lives, arrogance is no less destructive. You may see a businessman who earns millions but loses peace because pride makes him forget where the blessings came from. You may see a talented student who stops improving because they think they already know enough. You may see a person whose tongue is sharp with pride, always trying to prove others wrong until people quietly start walking away. Arrogance doesn't just destroy relationships, it destroys character. It turns confidence into cruelty and self-respect into self-worship. True strength lies in humility. The humble person listens, learns, and grows. When you are humble, you admit when you're wrong, you thank Allah for every blessing, and you treat people with respect no matter who they are. Humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. It means thinking of yourself less. It means realizing that everything you have, your success, your health, your talent, is a gift that can be taken away in a moment. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Whoever humbles himself for the sake of Allah, Allah raises him in honor." This is the secret of real success. The more you bow before Allah, the higher He lifts you. Look around you and you'll see examples of how humility brings peace and arrogance brings destruction. A proud person walks into a room wanting to be seen, but a humble person walks in wanting to serve. The proud person speaks to impress, while the humble speaks to connect. The proud always compare, but the humble always thank. Arrogance creates distance between friends, between hearts, and between you and your Creator. When pride enters a person's heart, gratitude leaves it. You stop saying Alhamdulillah because you start believing I did this on my own. And that is where downfall begins. Even in our prayers, arrogance can creep in when we think our good deeds make us better than others. But the one who truly understands faith knows that Allah looks not at the quantity of our actions, but at the sincerity of our hearts. The Muslims at Qadisiyyah didn't win because they were perfect. They won because they were sincere and humble before Allah. They cried for the forgiveness before they picked up their swords. They prayed for guidance before they planned their strategy. Their humility drew the mercy of Allah, while the Persians' pride drew their destruction. In everyday life, humility can heal what arrogance breaks. When a husband humbles himself, love grows stronger. When a leader listens instead of boasting, people trust him more. When a teacher admits they can still learn, wisdom increases. Even the smallest act of humility, saying, "I'm sorry," thanking someone sincerely, or helping without expecting credit, can soften hearts and bring barakah, blessing. Arrogance may win applause, but humility wins peace. If you ever feel proud of something, pause and remember everything you have is borrowed from Allah. The breath you take, the strength in your hands, the knowledge in your mind, all of it is a trust. It can be taken in an instant. This realization doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. The proud see themselves as kings, but the humble see themselves as servants of the King of Kings, and that is the greatest honor. In the end, the story of Rostam and the Persians is not just ancient history, it is a timeless warning. Every heart carries both humility and arrogance, and whichever one you feed will shape your destiny. Arrogance destroyed an empire, but humility built a civilization. When you live with humility, you invite Allah's help in every step. You walk softly on earth, speak gently to others, and rise above your ego. Life becomes peaceful, relationships become stronger, and your heart becomes light. So whenever pride whispers, "You are better," silence it with the remembrance of Allah. Remember that even the tallest mountain was once a grain of dust, and every king returns to the same earth as the servant. True greatness is not in being above others, it is in being closer to Allah. The Battle of Qadisiyyah reminds us that the arrogant may shine for a moment, but the humble shine for eternity. Unity invites the help of Allah. This truth has echoed through centuries, from the golden sands of Arabia to every corner where believers stood together for a righteous cause. The story of the Battle of Qadisiyyah is not just about swords and strategy, it is a living reminder that when hearts unite for Allah, His help descends like rain upon dry land. When the Muslim army faced the mighty Persians, they were few in number, but their hearts beat as one. They prayed together, cried together, and fought not for personal glory, but for one purpose, to make the word of Allah supreme. Their unity was not built on wealth or tribe, but on faith, brotherhood, and shared purpose. And that is what made them unstoppable. Unity is a divine force that multiplies strength. When one believer falls, another lifts him. When one grows weak, the other becomes his support. It is like the bricks of a wall. If one brick stands alone, it breaks easily, but when joined together, they form a fortress that cannot be destroyed. In our daily lives, unity carries the same power. Think about a family. When the members of a family stand together, supporting each other in love, patience, and respect, nothing can break them. But when ego and anger divide them, even a small argument can destroy peace. Unity begins not with the crowd, but within the heart, with the decision to forgive, to understand, and to hold each other with compassion. In every era, nations rise with unity and fall with division. The Muslim Ummah was once the strongest when it stood together, hearts connected by one kalima, la ilaha illallah. But when pride, jealousy, and division entered, that light began to fade. The Battle of Qadisiyyah reminds us that victory is not only won on the battlefield, it is won in the hearts that refuse to hate each other. The Muslims in that battle were not of one tribe or color. They were Arabs, Persians, Africans, different languages, different faces, but one faith. They prayed behind one imam, obeyed one leader, and fought under one flag. That is why Allah's help came to them. Unity doesn't mean we must all think the same or be the same. It means respecting differences while standing together for the same purpose. In daily life, unity looks like a husband and wife facing challenges hand in hand, not against each other. It looks like colleagues supporting one another instead of competing with jealousy. It looks like friends reminding each other of Allah when one is weak Every small act of cooperation invites blessing. Even in prayer, Allah commanded us to stand shoulder to shoulder, feet aligned, because when we are united physically and spiritually, we reflect the strength of the Ummah. Imagine how different the world would be if Muslims truly practiced unity today. If instead of arguing over small differences, we focus on our shared belief. If instead of tearing each other down on social media, we build each other up in faith. Every time we insult another Muslim, every time we divide the Ummah with pride, we weaken ourselves. But every time we forgive, help, and love for the sake of Allah, we become stronger. The Prophet Muhammad said, "The believers are like one body. If one part hurts, the whole body feels the pain." Unity is not a choice, it is a responsibility. In your personal life, you can see the power of unity in simple things. A team that works together achieves success faster. A community that helps its poor and supports its youth becomes respected and prosperous. Even in floods, loss, or sickness strike, those who come together survive with hope. This is not coincidence. This is the divine promise that Allah's help comes to those who stand united. Look at nature. Birds fly in formation to save energy. Ants work together to carry food. And bees build entire hives with perfect coordination. Allah has written unity into creation itself, but human arrogance often replaces unity with ego. We begin to say, instead of we. And that's when strength turns into weakness. When Muslims at Qadisiyyah stood together, their unity was their miracle. They didn't ask, who will get the credit or who will lead? They asked what pleases Allah. And because their goal was pure, Allah joined their hearts in our homes and communities. We can bring back this blessing by being the first to forgive. Unity begins when one heart chooses peace over pride. When you choose to calm an argument instead of winning it, you are planting the seed of unity. When you support someone's dream, share knowledge, or give in charity without expecting praise, you are building a wall of strength that even time cannot break. It's easy to talk about unity. It's harder to live it. But every step toward it brings Allah's mercy closer. Remember that division is the weapon of Satan. He loves to see brothers fight, families break, and nations fall apart. But every time you choose to stand together, you defeat him. Every time you hold your tongue from gossip or defend your fellow believer instead of mocking them, you are practicing the spirit of Qadisiyyah. Unity doesn't need grand speeches. It needs simple hearts that choose love for Allah's sake. When we unite, we don't just gain power, we gain peace. A united community becomes a garden where faith grows, where the young are guided and the old are honored. The Battle of Qadisiyyah ended with the fall of an empire, but its real victory was the strength of unity that lived in the hearts of believers. That same power lies within us today. We don't need armies or empires. We need togetherness, sincerity, and love for Allah and His creation. So wherever you are, at home, work, school, or in your community, be the one who builds unity. Smile when others frown, forgive when others fight, and connect when others divide. Because unity is not just a lesson from history, it is the secret to divine help in every era. And when we stand together, shoulder to shoulder, with hearts joined in faith, no power on earth can defeat us. For the help of Allah descends upon those who are united for His sake.